Welcome to RTP OT, that's Riding the Pine Overtime. It's our UFC 205 blowout. It is our UFC 205 recap extravaganza. I am Lou, that is Joel, that is John. It doesn't make sense because I'm pointing at my wall right now and you can't actually tell where I'm pointing in relative to the screen. Makes no sense whatsoever. That's how jacked up I am for something that happened to millionaires 48 hours ago. Guys, how are you?
Doing pretty well, man. It's a fucking crazy fight.
Well, you know, I got to tell you, and we're going to jump into this, and I think I've got to set some ground rules for what we're going to do, guys. I think the way we're going to have to do this, I know we all want to talk about Conor right away. We all want to talk about this and that. What we're going to do is we're going to work our way up through the card tonight. We're going to start it we're going to start down with Miesha Tate and Raquel Pennington and work our way up. We promise if you stay to the end, you get to hear all of our amazing opinions about Conor McGregor. Our opinions about him are almost as amazing as he is, so you have to stay until the end. Unless you're watching this in the future, just skip forward to like the 28-minute mark and damn it, buried the lead. I gave it away. No, guys, I wanted to ask you, was this the best UFC card in history? Did this beat the fabled 100 that we always remember as the greatest UFC card ever? This beat it, right?
Yes, hands down. No doubt about it. I think I told you guys in the chat, this to me was card 200.1.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this one blew away 200 by a long shot. The only reason that one had so much hype was because Brock Lesnar was on the card.
Right, and it blew away 100 too, and that's the thing that's so
absolutely
amazing. This was
totally
hands
agree.
down best fight card ever.
Yeah, I
and
think
the undercard was just as fun, frankly.
Well, that was the biggest point. I think Joel said it the other day when we had Frankie Edgar and Jeremy Stevens. That's a fight night main event right there that we had going on on free TV. I think that there's a lot of people that are saying how much better this was than 200, and I agree. It was better than 200. I think here in about 4 or 5 years, I think UFC 100 we remember better than it was. Granted, at the time it was the biggest show in history. UFC 200 was bigger than 100. Now, of course, you say that to anybody, and oh no, what about John Jones and Cormier, and oh, what about Conor backed out a month before? Blah, 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 blah. I think here in about 3 or 4 years we're gonna remember UFC 200 with that nostalgia, with those member berries, with those nostalgia glasses. I think we'll remember 200 better than it was. And we'll forget about Jones getting popped and the fact that Brock Lesnar was thrown in at the last minute because they needed to have a big draw for the card, to have a big mainstream draw for the card. So I think that we'll remember that. But guys, no, I really do. Without hyperbole, I'd say this was the best UFC. I can't imagine. I can't imagine there's a person in the world who paid $60 for this and who said they didn't get their money. There is no one who values their entertainment dollars so much that they didn't get their money for this. Eddie Alvarez's grandmother probably said, "Yeah, that was worth $60. That was worth $60. It was all right. It was all right. Yeah, got my money's worth." I can't imagine there's anyone in the world who is disappointed by this card.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I watched the damn thing twice just to make sure, and it was incredible all the way up and down the card. I mean, we were way wrong about Miesha. We can get into that one, but that was a pretty.
Well, let's
fight
dive
to
into
open
it
the
right
curtain.
now. Let's dive right into it.
Okay.
I mean, Raquel Pennington, Miesha Tate. Raquel Pennington was part of Team Tate back on Ultimate Fighter season 6. What was that? Season 6.
It's the one with with Miesha and Ronda.
Yeah, I think that was whatever. Doesn't matter. Anyways, she was a member. She was a member of her team, so it was kind of the master and pupil going up against one another. I think all of us here, I'm pretty sure, I went back and I wrote down everything. All of us here said that Tate was going to come out and was going to just hate fuck Raquel Pennington to death and was just going to murder her. Like, she wouldn't let her die. She just wanted to keep punishing her in the ring. No, that's not what happened here, guys. This was a massacre. This was brutal. In fact, one of the things that we all do, everybody out there, we're nerds. We all like to score these things ourselves, like as if we get paid to do this shit. What I was amazed by is the fact that it was a unanimous decision in Raquel Pennington's. Went the distance, 3 rounds, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. Went the distance, but the decisions were 30-27, 30-27, and then 29-28. Who the hell had Miesha Tate winning any of the guys? I even think 30-27 is ridiculous. I had 2 of those rounds as 10-8 rounds. I had rounds 1 and 3 as 10-8 rounds for Raquel. I don't know. Wow. I don't see how that third judge could have possibly judged that Tate won a single round.
The only thing I can think is that she had a little bit of control partway through the second round. She had a little bit of ground game going, and she controlled it for a second. Look, when we talked about this fight Saturday, my big thing was I had forgotten the type of striker that Pennington was. I remember watching her on that season of The Ultimate Fighter, and I mean, I forgot how much of a bruiser she is. And Miesha Tate does not have the striking prowess to be able to go up against a fighter like that. And I just flat out forgot that she was that kind of fighter. So I should have not been. Let me start that over. I'm not surprised this went the way it did at all. And I should have remembered beforehand, because, I mean, goddamn, she was ready to box.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I mean, she has background mostly in wrestling and jiu-jitsu, and I think if you're going to go anywhere with that judge that gave her a round, I guess you could say she almost slapped a couple submissions on her. I think that was in the second round, I want to say. But she never really had control. She was in like a half guard. She couldn't even get a closed guard on her.
Well,
so,
and that was the
she
whole
was just
point.
dodging
the takedown,
shots.
The takedown shouldn't have even been scored to anybody because they both just fell. It wasn't even a full takedown, so I didn't understand that one at all. That was bizarre.
I'd say about halfway through. I think it was about halfway through the second round. Miesha did go through a nice series of progressions through her BJJ, and it was really fun to watch. The problem is, I think a lot of people that don't understand Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at all get bored watching that stuff. But I think it's fucking amazing watching the progression that she went through, and everything that Rocky did to completely nullify it.
Yeah.
Everything. Now, speaking of nullifying, there at the end of the match, Joe Rogan interviews Miesha Tate afterwards. Miesha says, yeah, look, I'm hanging it up. That's the big news that came out of this fight was that, the biggest news, the thing that shocked the world was that Lou, Joel, and John were all wrong. It's right. All over Twitter. It's all over Sports Illustrated right now. ESPN's going crazy. Cage Side Seats is going nuts right now, reporting that we were wrong. But no, Miesha Tate retiring at the end of the match. Guys, did this feel like... I know it was supposed to be a good moment, but Joe Rogan asks her, he says, is this because of, where you are in your life, or is this the result of the match you just had? And she said, it's the result of the match. So you're upset that you lost, so you're going to quit? Help me out here, guys. Why should I feel good for Miesha Tate doing this?
You shouldn't. He gave her an out and she didn't take it. She should have just bowed gracefully and she didn't. She looked whiny. Yeah, there's no other way for me to put it.
She could have said the game has passed me by. Right. It's a young girl's game. I've been doing this a long time. I want to go off and have a family. I've got a second career now, getting into modeling and doing things like that and doing talk shows and stuff. She had a chance and she just no. Joe Rogan said I'm not going to interview people after they get knocked out anymore. Tell you what, how about if that's going to be his rule, then hey, fighters, don't make life decisions after you just got embarrassed on pay-per-view. Don't make a decision, because I guarantee you, if Rousey does retire in December, I guarantee you Tate fights at some point next year. I don't think she's really done.
Here's the frustrating thing about that. Okay, first of all, I agree with you on that point. I don't think she's really done either. I think this was a case of a fighter that got frustrated because she got beat and kind of did the old, I'm going to stomp my foot, take my ball, and go home kind of a thing. Yeah, bottom line is Joe Rogan gave her an out. Excuse me, Joe Rogan gave her an out. She didn't take it, and she should have. So, I mean, whatever. But, the problem with that is there's rumors now, too. Isn't there a rumor about 50% chance that Ronda Rousey's done after this next fight of hers, too?
Essentially what Ronda Rousey said on the Ellen DeGeneres show was, hey, you guys really need to pay attention and tune in to my fight at UFC 207 here in December because this may be my last bout. So
that sounds I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's because I heard the 50% and I immediately said, oh, she's going to decide to quit if she loses. I hope that that's not the case. I hope that it's life decisions. I hope that it's, done with fighting. I got other things coming up. I want to go do new things. I just don't want to see another person walk away
When they've still got something to give to the
in
game.
This manner, exactly. In this manner is the big thing that's frustrating me.
Well, I think it's interesting to bring Ronda up in this conversation because of how Miesha talked about Ronda after she lost to Holly Holm. She was calling her out for saying she wanted to quit after that fight, and how she was lacking the mental strength and all that kind of stuff. So to me, she kind of came off sounding hypocritical here.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of Miesha's.
Me too.
I think she hit all those other notes. She has taken a lot of punishment over the years from Ronda Rousey and other people. She just, she couldn't control that fight the other day, and I missed it on the show. I don't know if I had kind of an inkling that if she lost again like this, just based on how she's performed, that she would be gone. And
do you think she's really gone, Joel, or do you think that she's next year going to show up sometime like in late August or something on a fight night?
Maybe for a Ronda super fight if Dana throws that card out there. But other than that, no, I don't think so. I think she's ready to be done.
Yeah, well, way to steal some of the thunder from your career-long rival in Ronda Rousey. Way to steal that thunder away from her, sweetheart. Moving into our next fight, really not one that I thought would go this long, but really not a great fun fight, but my God, had the best ending. I mean, absolutely the best ending of the night. Yoel Romero and Chris Weidman, and it went exactly like all of us said. Romero is the best wrestler on the planet, and he out-wrestled Weidman left and right all night.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. Weidman could not get him down. He was going for most of the shots. It seemed like, especially early on, Yoel was really trying to conserve his endurance, but he was just laying back, waiting for Weidman to take those shots, and he stopped every single one.
Yep.
And then he
including
had
the final
beauty of a transition on that trip, and he spun around behind his back one time.
Yes.
And had him clinch down. It was like in a half a second. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
You just don't see that kind of athleticism all the time.
Never in my life have I seen a human being whose shoulders start at the base of their skull. I mean, holy shit. First of all, now the fight was amazing. The guy looked great. The thing that weird ass post fight S march that he did around the ring, saluting in each direction.
Oh, he's the soldier of God, man. That's what he does. He's the soldier of God. What's so incredible about Yoel Romero is the fact that he's still doing it at his age. I mean, the guy is going to be 40 years old in April.
That's insane.
That's insane. That is absolutely crazy. And that's just I just cannot imagine anybody. There's nobody who I see being that dominant in the field today who's in their early 30s or who's in their late 20s, like a Conor or somebody like that, or like a Cormier. When they're 39 years old, no. When they're 40, they're not going to be doing it like that.
No, I mean, we'll have to throw in this asterisk because Weidman talked about it in the post-fight conference. Yoel does have a history of testing positive for PEDs and such.
And that's one of the reasons why when he called out Michael Bisping afterwards, Bisping kind of threw up the birds. I won't do it here. I'm not that vulgar of a man. But Bisping threw him up and said, no, there's no way I'm going to fight this guy with good cause. He's been popped a couple of times. I wouldn't want to fight him either. He hasn't earned it if he's going to get caught and he's going to get popped.
Yeah. And
if you look at
Bisping's career, all of his losses are to guys that have popped for PEDs in the past. So especially at this stage in his career, when he's got the belt, I wouldn't want to be fighting these guys either. He's holding all the cards right now.
Yeah, I agree. That's the thing though. In the middleweight division, when are we going to see Bisping defend his title again? Are we going to see this in the first 6 months of next year? I mean, he said it. He said, hey, all you other bums, you need to get out there. You need to get some victories against each other and build up and deserve a shot against me. Who deserves a shot against Bisping right now?
It's a tough question.
This really is the most desolate division in all of UFC.
You could look at Jacare.
Well,
is right there. Jacare Souza. He's right there in the contention. But other than that, no, there's nobody really deserving.
No, I
In fact,
I
you know
agree.
what? I'd really love to see Jacare and Yoel go back at it. Because that was a fight that was really close, and I think if you fight those two guys, then they get to fight Bisping, whoever wins.
So our next fight of the night, easily, in my opinion, guys, single greatest women's fight I've ever seen in my life. I've watched a lot of women's UFC. I've watched a lot of women's MMA, even when it was still over in the WEC where Ronda came from. Guys, Joanna and Carolina. Best women's fight we've ever seen, right?
Fight of the night, in my opinion.
Woo!
Yeah,
really?
Woo.
Fight of the night, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah,
even over Tyron Woodley and okay, well, we'll get to Wonder Boy and Woodley here in a minute.
Yeah,
these two chicks, we talked about it going in. They're some of the most technical, especially Joanna. Obviously, some of the most technical strikers in the game. They've got such a diversity. I mean, Joanna's a 7-time Whiteside World Championship. It was really interesting the contrast of their styles. You know, you've got Joanna with her game face. I mean, she's a tough bitch, and Carolina starts out just kind of leaning against.
I love
the fence.
That. I
just
love
kind of
that.
docile, sitting
like,
over
whatever.
there, and then as soon as the ring starts, she just fucking puts her game face on.
I just love that she's a tough bitch. No, I do love Carolina's. I do love her. You know, between the rounds, I do love her pose that she does in the cage, where she puts her hands up against the cage and just waits. Yeah, she looked as cool as could be when Joanna was coming into the ring. You know, making all the pomp and circumstance about herself. And you know, we kind of talked about this the other day. You know, Joanna is clearly the best, or at least the most dominant women's fighter in the world right now, but she hasn't reached that. You know, she hasn't reached that Ronda Rousey level of fame, or hell, even that Miesha Tate level of fame. You know, Joel, you'd thrown out there that it was part of the language barrier. She's marrying an American guy. She's moving to New York. She's going to be living in the States. I think right now is the time for her that she could really, if UFC is smart, she's 28, get behind this girl, because this girl could be the future women's face of your company. Yep,
agreed, 100%.
Because she's with American Top Team now too. That's her new coaches and training partners. So that's an awesome place for her to be, to even, you know, keep going on her skills. Shall we talk about the scoring now, Lou?
Yeah, I was actually just gonna try to segue into that, but
okay, yeah. So I threw out some things while I was really drinking. I was drinking a lot on Saturday night, and I said something that basically what I said was I scored this, and I scored the entire fight as 50-45. I didn't say that Carolina won one single round when everybody seems to agree she won the fourth. Excuse me. Look, she landed one combination that phased Joanna. That was it. That was
she almost ended the fight.
Well, yeah, it was definitely more than one, and I'll call them JJ and KK because it's just easier than trying to pronounce their names. Joanna got her face wrecked, and it's the first time that's ever happened to her. It's the first time she's ever taken that kind of abuse. But here's the thing, because I scored at 48-47, and the reason is I think she won 4 and 5, and the reason that I say that is the amount of control that she had over the octagon for both of those rounds. For those 2 rounds, she controlled the center of that ring, and there weren't really any takedowns for me to try to judge any kind of other control of the ring. So, yeah, you got to go with strikes, but when you look at the overall control of the ring, the judges are taking that into account. Whose ring does this belong to? They take that into account with scoring, and I think that Carolina, thank you. Carolina, I think she won both of those rounds based on that.
I mean, I can understand with round 4 because she, you know, like I said, she got that one great combination. Really, I mean, just Joanna there was no defense to it. It didn't graze at all. She hit her right in the fucking mouth. There was. She
walked into it.
She threw into it. She was trying to throw an elbow. Or actually, no, excuse me. She was trying to do that slap so she could judge the distance and then throw an elbow. And yeah, she just ran right into it. But that's the thing. She ran into that combination. She escaped from it, and like John just said, never took her to the ground. Never made anything of it. Never had her in trouble. Never had her pinned up against the cage after that. So Okay, you landed 2 nice shots. She still hit you 14 times in the round.
Yeah, she was knocked out. I mean, she was almost out on her feet there, though. I mean, the fight was almost ended right on that spot. And we've never seen somebody hit Joanna like that. Like, right. Most girls don't even come close to touching her. And she was on Queer Street for a minute there, man. So I gave Carolina the 4th round and made it 49-46. And I told you, if you wanted to keep your score, you could have given Joanna a 10-8 round in the first or second, because Carolina just looked bewildered early.
Yeah. She was
had
confused,
no
but
idea.
I gave her the benefit of the doubt, and I just said it. I gave Joanna every round. I gave her. I just hate seeing that in the 4th, because everybody made a big deal about it. Yes. If she would have followed it up and she would have gotten her on the ground and she would have been able to get a takedown out of it, absolutely. No, there's not even a question. Done. Not even. I still, you just can't convince me that round 4, unless we see it again sober, I just can't tell you that round 4 was hers.
But here's the thing where that gets interesting, though. This is where that gets really interesting, because when we talk about that fight, what we're saying is Joanna controlled the first 3 rounds handily, so she controlled a regular fight handily. Carolina, fucking hell, Carolina controlled the championship rounds in my mind.
Right, exactly. and that's what defines a champion, is being able to take that 4th and 5th round. You're right. And you said it absolutely right. Joanna's never gone up against somebody who can hit like that before. She's never gone up, and she's never been nailed. She's so fast, and she's so quick on her feet, and she's so well at protecting herself. She's never been hit square on like that before. That being said, as we all know, and we said it on the show, she's willing to take a shot to the chin. She's willing to take body shots to close that distance. She's not a great-looking lady. She's got nothing to lose. So she will move in, and she will take some punishment to get in on you. But she got overly aggressive there in the 4th, and yeah, she got rocked on that combination. Moving on to, I think what... Aside from John, I would say the other 6.99999 billion people on the planet would say perhaps not fight of the night, fight of the year, to the point that we came to a majority draw, which 4 rounds into it, or excuse me, 3.5 rounds into it, no way this is a draw. This is Woodley has dominated here.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most unbelievable escape in the history of not even mixed martial arts, fighting, in the history of combat sports, where Stephen Thompson, it's not even an escape, it was the survive. He survived a guillotine from Tyron Woodley for over 45 seconds. I don't know, not only how did he survive, how did he not just pass out? How did he just not die in the ring?
Yeah, it was incredible, man. And Tyron said it a little bit in the post fight. You know, Wonder Boy does have that really skinny head. It is kind of strange how he's got that little benefit. So I guess he couldn't just. I don't know if he didn't have it fully under the chin or what. He couldn't get that locked down, and then when he was squeezing so hard for so long, he burned his arms out.
He did. He was gassed, and he couldn't defend himself. Then when Thompson was on, because that's the thing. You're in that guillotine. You're in a 10-8. You're in a guillotine like that. If your arms go, you're not going to be able to defend yourself from someone just pounding on you for the last 15 seconds of the round.
Especially a guy that's got the number of kicks that Wonder Boy has.
Yeah, and let me say on the last show, somebody was trying to correct me on Wonder Boy's jiu-jitsu skills, and I would still knock him down, but the brother-in-law I was trying to mention on the show is Carlos Machado, who is a legit world champion. I mean, he does train with him all the time, so obviously that helped him get out of that guillotine. And if you notice, Lou, it reminded me a little bit of the DC Anderson Silva fight in the first round, even though Woodley, I mean, that was the 10-8 round for me. Some other judges scored that a little differently. But when Woodley was pounding on him, he was lifting up his back leg a little bit, so he couldn't get that. Couldn't get the right amount of posture in there.
Yeah, tried to go for a Kimura there at the towards the end of the first, or it was either or a triangle choke or a Kimura. I couldn't tell what he was going for there. I think Joe Rogan said he was going for a triangle, but you're right. Thompson defended himself so well. Obviously, the biggest part of this match was the fact that it comes out a majority draw. I think Bruce Buffer was about 6 seconds away from being murdered by Tyron Woodley in the octagon. Obviously, they come out. They announce that Woodley has won the fight. After, Buffer has looked at the card, said, this ain't right, walks out of the octagon, walks all the way around, takes it over to the judges, says, what the fuck are you having me read? And they explain it to him, comes back in, announces that Woodley has won. Then in the middle of his interview with Joe Rogan, his post-fight interview, somebody comes over and tells them, no, that's not what happened. It was a draw. Woodley has his hands over his belt like, bitch, you're not taking this, which is funny because of something that happened later on in the night. And he's just staring at Buffer, and I just said, wow, man, at least Buffer's wearing a nice suit tonight. At least he'll die in a great suit.
That suit was unbelievable.
That was, that blue and gray two-tone.
Custom tux.
Oh my goodness, that was gorgeous. Guys, what do you think about this? I mean, we've got to see a part 2 to this, right? Because it came out as a unanimous draw. I mean, you have to. You just can't not.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Absolutely. Like you said, I mean, that's in the runnings. If it's not, definitely the fight of the year, man. And it was so weird, too, watching it when Bruce Buffer, I mean, he read all the scores right, but I don't know if they had written, like, majority decision draw, and he just thought majority decision Woodley
he just
won.
Stopped reading.
It was a really weird moment there.
But it was great how Joe Rogan had to calm Woodley down. He goes, well, look, you're keeping your belt. You're keeping your belt. That's okay. We can't take your belt from you. It was a draw. That was just, I loved watching him, and he was just so on edge for the rest of the night. You could just tell how pissed he was. It really makes you wonder how they got that belt away from him at the end of the night. There was one other thing that I meant to bring up. Speaking of the Kimura lock that I brought up, there was one other guy, and we might talk about him here in a little bit when it comes to talking about the future of the lightweight division. But on the prelim card, I know Frankie Edgar and Jeremy Stephens was the fight that everybody was talking about being the main event of the prelim. What about Michael Johnson and Team Khabib? Holy shit.
Yeah.
If Nurmagomedov isn't the future of the lightweight division, I don't know who is. This guy looks like a KGB, just total savage out there. Holy shit.
I love that Nurmagomedov has already caught on.
That's already a thing. Yeah, Nurmagomedov has already... Dude, he... Wow. I mean, the guy was funny on the mic. The guy was making a lot of jokes. Obviously he comes out with their, whatever that Russian hat is called, that big fuzzy, alpaca-looking hat. He puts it on Joe Rogan's head. I think this guy has a huge, huge future in the company.
I hope so, because the guy looks like a great fighter. He looks like exactly what Dana's hoping for, somebody that can come in and start scrapping again.
So I think we're going to see him down the road, maybe against a particular Irishman, against Dublin's one and only son. But guys, obviously the thing that brought us all to the dance, and I think it worked out pretty similar to how we all thought it would. Conor McGregor, featherweight champion, up against Eddie Alvarez. TKO in the second round, and I mean, it happened exactly like we said it would. Alvarez goes in, leaves himself completely unprotected from that left hook that Conor can throw, turns it into a 4-shot combination, gets him on the ground, and Big John just had to break it up because he was just going to kill Alvarez in the middle of the octagon. Guys, what else can you say about it? I mean, that's the summary of the fight.
Look, it was the fourth time he had been put to the ground by
fifth.
That stiff left that I mean that punch is not anything I've really ever seen before in that weight class. He looks like he's punching 2 weight classes above himself, and this is, I mean, he's just in lightweight. So he came from featherweight, right?
Yeah, came from featherweight, has now moved into lightweight because he's ruined the featherweight division. No, you're right. That left. That's the fastest. He throws it, to quote Dana White, there's no effort behind it. There's no strain. When you look at his face, it's just deadpan when he's throwing it. He's not putting out any force. He's not exerting himself whatsoever. It's completely, it's automatic. It's completely effortless for him to throw it. It's amazing.
Yeah, Joe Rogan mentioned it in the post fight. Faraz Sahabi, the coach at TriStar Gym, calls that the touch of death that Conor carries in that left hand, and it's like that. He just hits at a whole new level. And Joe said during the fight, people aren't just surprised constantly. They think they've got a good chin. They think, oh, he's no bigger than me. None of this stuff. They get in there and he hits him with one of those things, and it's just like, whoa. He's on a whole nother level. Every once in a while, you see one of those guys that just hits harder than the next guy.
Yeah.
Now, I said it that Conor's antics. I did say that I was worried that we were getting to a point where Conor's antics outside of the octagon may be rivaling or even surpassing what he does in it. And the only reason that is not correct is because technically his post-fight interview was still in the octagon. That is the only reason I will say that he hasn't surpassed it. So Conor comes out. They give him Eddie Alvarez's, well, I guess his now, lightweight championship, and Joe Rogan says, "Is there anything you want to say to the people?" He says, "Yeah, where's my fucking other belt? I've already got this one." Not realizing that he thought he was holding his featherweight belt. Dana comes over, and apparently what he said to Dana was, "Go get my other fucking belt." And Dana says, That was your responsibility, idiot. You didn't come to the ring with it. That's on you, dumbass." So they couldn't find Conor's belt back in his locker room, so they actually took Tyron Woodley's belt. He did give it back. All the UFC titles looked the same. He was technically holding up the... God, if that's not symbolic of things to come, not only does he get in a stare down during the weigh-ins with Woodley, but now he's holding Woodley's belt in the octagon celebrating and not technically his. Oh, that could be an omen of things to come.
So I think there's only one way to solve that issue going forward, Lou.
What's that?
You make sure, just like in the old Intercontinental Championship, you make sure the belt is ringside and in somebody's corner so that somebody can get freaking suplexed onto it or beat over the head with it.
That's it, man. You got to do it just like WWE, so that if the ref goes down, you can use the belt as a weapon. Guys, look, I mean, I know none of us have been around for years and years. None of us watched Ali. None of us watched Frazier. We were all, really young when Foreman was in his prime. Is Conor McGregor, is he the Muhammad Ali? Is he the Joe Frazier? Is he the once in a decade, once in a generation fighter of UFC? Is he the guy that defines MMA for us? Will he be the guy that we talk about in 40 years to our grandkids?
I think he's the extension of GSP. In terms of how he'll continue the legacy of MMA.
Certainly a lot more charismatic, I would take, than GSP.
I'll give you that, but GSP, I mean, what a great fighter. And this guy, I think he's going to carry that same legacy, just with a hell of a lot more flash.
Yeah, that's not a bad comparison. GSP did a lot of winning. He was obviously one of the legends in the UFC, and he was a good-looking guy that helped him out. But I'm kind of more in the Ali boat, not just on, not on, long-term success yet. He's obviously done a lot of things that other people haven't.
He's got his whole career in front of him, as long as he wants that to be. He's 28.
The Ali comparison there is the talking that you're talking about. Nobody is on the same level as Conor McGregor. He had Eddie Alvarez psyched out the same way he did Jose Aldo. And it's not just getting into the opponent's head, it's hyping up the fights. They broke all their records on pay-per-view and everything else.
$17 million gate.
Yes.
They
were like $20,000 tickets.
$17 million gate.
Biggest gate in Madison Square Garden history.
This is Madison Square Garden. This is a place where NBA finals have been played. This is shattered.
Some of the best boxing matches in history. You know, that's why they were dying to get there. That's why they made this the greatest card in history, because they had to. You do it big when you go to MSG.
So, obviously, Conor comes out. He now holds 2 belts. We're a little over 48 hours since the event, and I guess Dana White is still assembling that army to come take that featherweight title away from him, because pretty sure it's still around his waist. Conor is still the featherweight championship, so Dana has maybe balked a little bit on that, and he is the lightweight champion. Guys, let me ask, what do you want to see I guess what path do you want to see Conor go? Because I mean, there's really a couple of different paths. There's he goes back and he tries to defend the featherweight title. He continues defending the lightweight title because I mean that is I think we would all agree that's the deepest division in UFC right now, and quite frankly, a guy who I want to see him defend it against sometime next year, maybe get one more fight out of the guy, maybe get one pay-per-view fight or a number one contenders fight out of him, dude. I'm telling you, Team Khabib, I want to see Nurmagomedov and Conor at some point next year, like maybe in the third quarter of next year, August, September. I want to see that happen. But or does he go on because Conor said earlier today, or excuse me, he said it yesterday morning, Diaz-McGregor Part 3 is going to happen eventually. I guess, what do you guys want to see out of him? Where do you guys want to see Conor go from here?
I want to see him go and take Woodley's belt.
It's a little aggressive considering he hasn't had a single lightweight defense yet, but
I'd like to see him give it a shot at welterweight as well. I'm still pretty confident after the matchup, though, that Wonderboy is going to be the one holding that belt. However, with the Khabib matchup, that's the one that's been kind of imminent for a while now. If McGregor was going to beat Alvarez, and he had something to say about that.
What does this guy mean if?
Yeah. So they were asking about it. They were asking him about this in the post-fight press conference. He said, if you want me to come change your life, if you want me to pick you, you better give me some damn good reasons.
He essentially said what Michael Bisping said, just way more charismatic, just way better at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Called him a pull-out merchant, which is the case with Khabib. He's had to call off a lot of fights because of injuries and things like that. So
injuries / KGB assassination missions, but whatever.
Exactly.
Whatever he's doing.
So I think I'd love to see that fight. I think it would be good to see him and Nate go at it again, but I don't want to see that now. I want to see him defend the lightweight title. I want to see him maybe go after the welterweight title, and then do the Diaz maybe after you've had a couple of defenses and you're ready for another payday.
I agree. I've said it in the past when John and I were talking about the lead up going into UFC 202, 203. When was Diaz?
202.
202. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
203 was what happened at 203?
Overeem Miocic.
Yeah, that's right. That's when. Yeah, that's right. He tapped. No, he didn't, bro. Yeah. John and I talked about this, and we talked about, the rubber match, and I'm so conflicted because you guys have heard on the show before, obviously something I hate in sports are ties. I despise them. It's the reason that you have an odd number of games played in the World Series or the NBA Finals or the Stanley Cup Finals, whatever it may be. You just can't have a draw. You can't have a tie. And we're tied up 1-1 with Diaz and McGregor right now. But at the same time, when you're in a combat sport, when you're in a sport where it's not teams, but it's individuals facing off and defending straps, defending titles against people, when you're holding the strap, your number one responsibility to the sport, to the fans, to ownership, to your fellow fighters, whatever it may be, is to defend that strap, is to go out there and defend that belt. So while I do want to see that rubber match between he and Diaz, while I do want to see that happen, I don't know if morally is the right word to use, or just, I guess on principle, I can't say I want to see him and Nate Diaz go at it right now, because I've got to see him defend that lightweight title.
Yeah, and possibly even the featherweight title. I mean, he said he's going to take a lot of time off. I started thinking about that, and I wondered if he really wants to keep that one too. This could be giving him enough time to cut some weight down to where that weight cut before the fight isn't as tough on him. But I think I agree with John. I think I'd rather see him put on a little bit of extra weight and maybe move up to welterweight, because I think he's got the power to compete.
Like
there.
I said, let's see at least 3 lightweight defenses before we decide to go up another weight class.
I'll say 2, but if he's hitting so hard that he's putting a guy like Eddie Alvarez on his back like that many times, virtually after every successful combination, he's stunning him to that level. He's got enough power that maybe featherweight, he should just vacate that title, let them sort it out. You're clearly big enough, bad enough, and powerful enough to move the fuck up.
Yeah,
vacate and move on.
I agree. I want to see him vacate the featherweight title. That being said, I almost feel like if he vacates the featherweight title, and now that Jose Aldo doesn't want to fight for UFC anymore, they've got their contract dispute going on right now, and that's a different topic for a different show for a different day. But who are we kidding? We're never going to talk about Jose Aldo on this show again. What the fuck? But if I think we all agree, or at least I believe it, he is broken. He has destroyed the featherweight division. If he vacates that strap, just fucking fold the division. And you know what? Quite frankly, everything below it too. Strawweight, no one's gonna beat Mighty Mouse. No one's gonna beat Demetrius Johnson. Just give him $10 million and say go away. Just go somewhere else. Here's $10 million. Go away. You're not a draw. That's the thing. You're not a draw anymore when you don't have someone to fight. If Hulk Hogan would have been fighting the popcorn vendor, or Ric Flair would have been wrestling the guy who was taking tickets at the front of the stadium, nobody would come. You had to have an opponent for that great big hero to fight. And I just don't see that person for either Johnson or Conor in featherweight. I don't see it.
Yeah, and I don't see that person that's going to rival Conor in the featherweight. But let's just go with let's say they vacate that belt. There are a few younger guys, some fairly good challengers. One Conor fought before, and when Conor fought him, he was not very strong. He's gotten way better. He's on a hot streak right now. Is Max Holloway, who is fighting Anthony Pettis coming up, I think at 206.
Which, by the way, that card got a whole hell of a lot better on Saturday night, didn't it?
And the other name I'll throw out again, I brought him up in the last show, is Yair Rodriguez. The kid is unbelievable. He's one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. So he's got a chance to move up in the lightweight ranks now, or featherweight, excuse me.
John, what do you think? I mean, what is the future? Oh, I guess, does the featherweight division of the UFC have a future to you?
Not in the next 2 years. And not for as long as Conor is going to say that he's going to amass an army to keep his belt. Because there's nobody that's going to take it from him. I mean, that's clear. So it's going to take a vacation. It's going to take him vacating it. And then it's going to take figuring that division out again. It's going to create kind of a little bit of the issue that the women's divisions are having right now is they've got to sort out who's the real champion, who's the person that's going to... Featherweight's going to run into that as soon as Conor vacates, because that belt's going to go away from him eventually. And I think that's where we sit. We just have to kind of wait and let Dana and Conor fight it out, which frankly, it's going to be fun to watch them fight it out. That's going to be a fight unto itself.
Which, and that's another thing with it. The featherweight, you know what I'm afraid, because we don't see anybody now that Aldo is gone, I don't see a dominant figure that can rise from the ashes of that featherweight division. What's going to end up happening, I think, is you're going to wind up with what we saw for the past 10 months, let's call it, with the women's bantamweight title, how they played hot potato with it. And that's what I'm afraid would end up happening with that featherweight strap if Conor were to vacate it and they slap it on somebody. I think it just plays hot potato for a while. And I just can't think of anybody who would be able to really hold on to it. Let me ask you this, because this is one that's been floating around and one that I just don't know about. So we all agree that Khabib is the guy who we want to see. We want to see Nurmagomedov and McGregor face off. Khabib, is he ready for that fight? Considering he didn't even have his fight on the main card. He was on the pre-show. Do you think on whether it be a fight night or whether it be in the middle of 208 or whatever it may be, or maybe 209, do you think we should see Alvarez and Khabib for a number one contenders match for McGregor's lightweight strap? What do you think about that?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that happening.
If Alvarez loses, he's out. I think his career is over, though.
Yeah.
He's got nowhere to go but down.
Tough for Eddie. At this point, he's 32 entering that fight.
Yeah, well, he's 32, and we lost John for a second. John? Okay, John will be back, guys. We've got his avatar there. Yeah, that's the thing. I almost feel like kind of that joke that I made there a minute ago about Jose Aldo. I'm kind of afraid we're probably going to make that same joke about Eddie Alvarez in about 6 months, of that he's never going to be relevant again, and we're never going to end up talking about him again.
Connor's the career ender, I guess, huh?
He's the breaker, yeah.
Yeah, man, I could see that happening too. And I don't know if Khabib is really ready. I mean, you know what his game plan is going to be against Conor. It's what Mendez and all those guys were doing, try to get him down. I don't think Eddie Alvarez did that enough in their fight. He was trying to stand up with him, and he was just not even in Conor's league.
No,
it wasn't fair.
I agree. So one of the other big things that Conor came out and he made waves with, and I guess we'll end up closing the show with this. Sorry guys, we're kind of shifting all over the place here. We're looking a little goofy on the stream, I guess, with how our pictures are. Not gonna worry about it. Joel, Conor comes out and he says, "Look, if these guys want to keep me around, if they want me to be a part of this anymore, I'm going to need some equity in this company. I'm going to need to take on an ownership role in the UFC." I think he said, goddamn Conan O'Brien owns shares in the UFC. What the fuck has he ever done? I'll tell you what, Conan O'Brien, he's got that reach. He's got that reach on McGregor all day long. I'd slow down there a little bit, Conor. You're not the only one with the redheaded superpowers.
Right.
I don't know how to feel about that, because it almost feels like Conor's going to end up holding these guys up. Not for money isn't the right word, but for equity, for stake in the company. I almost feel like he's going to end up holding these guys up.
Yeah, that would be a really interesting deal. I mean, I could see this being a battle over precedent, where these new owners don't want to even entertain the idea, so that none of these other fighters want to do the same thing. But there's already a lot of hands in that pot. This ownership group got a lot bigger when they sold. And I mean, Conor mentioned in the fight, he hasn't even met with them yet. He said, I don't know who the fuck owns this thing now, but they need to come talk to me. And they definitely do. I mean, he's their breadwinner now. But I don't know if they're going to be willing to give him a piece of it.
No, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine that ownership is going to want to be able to give up that. I don't think the WME group, after they went out and paid $4 billion it was for the company, I can't imagine them saying, yeah, let's go ahead and give some of it to this Irishman who that'd be like if you went out and bought a circus and you said, hey, you know what, we really need to start treating the monkeys better. We really need to let them, we really need to give the elephants a share. Not that Conor's a monkey, just saying that if they bought it to own you, they didn't buy it to negotiate with you, the talent. That being said, I will say one thing for Conor, though. The one thing that he has a chance to do, because let's face it, he holds all of the cards right now. He holds all of the cards with the UFC. He has the ability. I don't know if he's willing to do this, because I just don't think he gives a shit about it enough, because he's clearly an all-about-him kind of guy. And hey, I get it, man. I mean, I don't go to work every day for the team. I go to work to feed my family. I wonder if Conor would be... I wonder if Conor is willing to be that guy who's going to say, yeah, I'll continue fighting, and yeah, I want to make more money, but I want these other 8 guys on the card to be making more money also. So I wonder, and now that they have this bullshit deal with Reebok where the UFC's making a ton of money on it, but the guys aren't seeing any money, and they can't wear their own gear and sell their own gear anymore. Now they have to do everything licensed through Reebok. He could be the kind of guy who could get a lot of changes done. I really think that he could use his bargaining position with the UFC. We talked about it last time, how the guys on the card didn't get paid shit. Went back at UFC 200, how they made less than 3% of the total earnings actually went to the fighters. I think that Conor could be the kind of guy who could help spearhead changing things there. I think he could do that, because let's face it, guys, these guys, a lot of them wind up broke and penniless once they get out of this thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you see a lot of guys that are now working for the company, like your Chuck Liddells, your Forrest Griffins. They're kind of, the glad handers now for the league. And it's awesome that they get that kind of parachute, but not all those are the biggest stars in the sport get that.
Right. That's your Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth that are getting that. Exactly. Your Kenny Lofton isn't getting that. So no. I agree. Real quick before we head out, UFC 206, 207, I mean, we've got 2 back-to-back pay-per-views here towards the end of the year. God, I feel like they've just overloaded us with shit here at the end of the year.
I know.
And god damn, aren't they good at being able to space stuff out, because I will pay... I'm going to pay money for Cormier, and you know that you're going to pay for potentially Ronda Rousey's last fight ever. God damn you. God damn you, Dana White. You are better at your job than I am at mine. UFC 206 and 207. Which one are you more excited about? Which one's getting you geeked up?
I'm really excited about 206, especially to see the Cormier Rumble fight, because Rumble's on a whole nother level. If you saw that knockout on Glover Teixeira, it was ridiculous.
Oh, hell, Teixeira tried to tackle the ref afterwards. He didn't know what had happened, and he thought the fight was still going on. That was great.
Rumble is so damn scary. So I want to see that one for that fight. The fight I mentioned earlier, Max Holloway, Anthony Pettis, is going to be a hell of a fight. And a little sleeper one, he's only ranked 14 now, but he's going up against Cowboy on that card. Matt Brown and Cowboy Cerrone is going to be nuts. Those guys don't give a fuck.
I absolutely love Cowboy. Cowboy is one of the guys, he is one of the characters that brought me to UFC and made me a fan of the sport. Made me a fan of MMA. Just, I'm a pro wrestling fan, so characters and attractions are something that bring me into things. And Cowboy was one of those guys. But like I said the other day, man, I love Cowboy. I'm not paying to see Cowboy fight anymore. You can see that on Fight Nights or UFC's on Fox at this point. So I'm not paying for that anymore. It's Cormier that's bringing me into that one. Obviously 205 was a situation where the card was just so stacked. 206, what's bringing me into that is Rumble and DC. But 207, while 207 as a card isn't nearly as deep, you've got Cain Velasquez on there. Do we care anymore? I mean, his last fight was destroying Ronda's boyfriend, destroying Travis Brown at the end of the first round there at UFC 200. Do we... I don't care about the rest. Oh, TJ, I take that back. TJ Dillashaw's on the card, and I always love to watch TJ. So I take that back. I'm a big Dillashaw fan, and he's a big proponent for what I talked about getting health insurance and stuff for these guys. So.
Sure, I'll be interested to see Cain fight again, because I think that's going to be the matchup with Miocic for the championship if he gets through this fight, and I think that's going to be Miocic's toughest matchup in the heavyweight division is Cain. The guy's got a motor that only Miocic could hang around with, and then the Dillashaw that you brought up, I'm interested in too, because you brought up Mighty Mouse earlier. He doesn't have a lot of contenders.
None.
And Dillashaw's a weight class higher. I think they fought before and Mighty Mouse won, but I'd like to see that fight again. And let me throw out there, I really want to see Mighty Mouse fight Dominick Cruz. That would be a crazy fight,
dude. I don't think that's the thing, dude. Joel, I don't think Mighty Mouse. I think he is so comfortable being a god. He is so comfortable being the biggest fish in a tiny pond.
Cheat code.
Yeah, you know what he is? He's the University of Texas with the Big 12 is what he is. He just loves being in charge of this little pond that he's not going to go away. Which, by the way, oh my God, that's going to be on tomorrow night's show, guys. Holy shit, NCAA, what are you doing? You're making me look stupid. A week ago, I told everybody there was no controversy. Now, what the hell happened? No, I want to see Dominick Cruz. I'm not a big fan of Cody Garbrandt, who he's going up against. This tattooed, super cocky, just really mouthy guy. I really want to see Dominick Cruz humble the kid a little bit. So,
I think he will.
And actually, I got to tell you, because we've talked about guys who are doing commentary. Cruz is one of the best. He is one of the absolute best at doing commentary before doing pre and post fight shows. But I mean, obviously, look, I don't want to sound like a mark. You could have this. I see the main event in that. I see Nunes and Rousey.
Yeah.
I don't see how Rousey is going to be able to take her on, because the reason that Rousey lost to Holly Holm in such convincing fashion is sort of what you said about Joanna earlier, that we've never seen someone nail her in the face like that. Ronda Rousey, her entire time in UFC, granted, I didn't watch her in WEC. I didn't see her there. Or not WEC, Strikeforce, excuse me. I didn't see... Yeah. Wait, was it... Yeah, no, she came over with Strikeforce, didn't she? Pretty sure she was a Strikeforce girl. Yeah. So
we'll get killed either way.
Yeah, whatever. She was in Strikeforce. I don't see her... I didn't see her Strikeforce work, but if you watch her work in the UFC so far, she's never been hit in the face before. No one's ever clocked her in the face. She has spent her entire career being able to out judo and out wrestle people and be able to get them on the ground into an armbar. that's what she's been able to spend her entire career doing, and doing it quickly, doing it within the first minute of the first round. So she's been able to do that very quickly throughout her career. She's never taken shots like that before. If you think Holly Holm could throw some shots, holy shit, guys. Get on UFC Fight Pass and go watch what Nunes can do. She will break your jaw just looking at you crossways.
And she's got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so it's not going to be very easy for Ronda to get that tap on her like she has a lot of other girls.
Well, no, and she's also a judo girl, too. So, I mean, she knows how to defend against everything that Rousey's going to throw out there.
Yep, and she's training with American Top Team. We mentioned them earlier. They're a really great camp to work with, so she's going to be prepared. And I want Rousey to win this fight just so we can finally set up this super fight that MMA fans have been waiting for forever, and that's Cyborg and Rousey. That's the fight everybody's been talking about since before. I mean, Cyborg just got into the UFC, and she doesn't have many challengers.
Do you really see it ever happening? I don't think Rousey...
She would have to win this fight against Nunes, but
that's the thing. I think if she loses to Nunes, she's never... No, dude, she loses to Nunes, she's gone. I think she's going to Tate. She's going to throw up to deuces and Tate.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Ronda has to win this fight for that to even be a question. And I don't know if I would even give Ronda a shot in that fight either, because Cyborg is scary. But on the flip side of that, you know, after this fight, you might see Cyborg and Nunes, and that would be a really interesting matchup too.
Yeah, I just don't know what's left for Rousey at this point. I guess what I'm saying is I don't see a path to that happening, because if she wins, well, then she can say, well, I've got to defend the bantamweight title. You know, sorry, you can't. You know, I can't fight you at banta, so not going to happen. And if she loses, then she's going to ride off into the sunset because she wants to go make babies with Travis Brown. Those are going to be some awkward and entitled children.
Really awkward.
Yeah, and real quick, I'll say to Rock Soldier before I could type it out, Rock Soldier said, yeah, well, Lou, that's pretty much what WCW did. Remember Hogan versus David Flair? Do you remember that WCW went out of business very shortly afterwards? So no, nobody was paying to see that. No one cared, Rock Soldier. Woo! Yeah, David Flair, Hulk Hogan. Yeah, didn't draw a whole lot of money. Yeah, pretty sure WCW died after Halloween Havoc 1998. Yeah, Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan. Ugh, ugly stuff. But man, that's all I've got. I'm exhausted. I'm still geeked up about this. Quite frankly, you know what I'm gonna go do? I'm gonna go watch Woodley and Wonder Boy again. Because it was just that fun. That was I really mean it. Fight of the year so far for me.
Let me leave you with this then, Lou. Look out for this, because this is how I scored it. Wonder Boy took 2, 3, and 5. He took 2, 3, and 5. Woodley got the 10-8 in the first round.
See, I had it differently. See, I had him taking rounds 3 and 5. I didn't have the 10-8 for Woodley though in round 1. So we wound up. You know, we wound up close to each other. It was just the fact that I didn't take it the same route. So, but guys, for John and his internet connection, and Joel, I am Lou. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, leave comments down in the bottom. Let us know how wrong Joel and John are about everything. Be sure to tell me how right I am about everything, even if you disagree with me. My entire self-esteem is built upon strangers telling me that they agree with me as far as sports go. Please agree with everything I say, or I swear to God, I'm gone.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's all he's got.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.